Inspiring interviews with today's top landlords. This is the Rental Income Podcast. And now, Dan Lane.
Joseph Catalano from Niagara Falls, New York, is joining us on the podcast today. Joseph has a great story. I just love hearing stories like this. Joseph recently started buying rental properties, but he has taken massive action. He's bought several properties, and they're all cash flowing really well. He's done a really good job. I want to find out exactly how he did this, exactly how he found the properties. I want to go over the numbers, how he financed them all, and we will get right into it in just 30 seconds.
Are you on track to achieve your financial goals? Income-producing real estate is the most historically proven way to accumulate wealth and has created more financial freedom than any other means. Norada Real Estate provides everything you need to invest in the best turnkey cash flow rental properties. Our simple, proven system will help you create real wealth and passive monthly income. Get your free strategy session with our knowledgeable investment counselors at noradarealestate.com. That's Norada realestate.com.
Joseph, why rental properties? What got you first interested in buying a rental?
Well, first of all, Dan, thank you very much for having me on your show. I do love listening to your show.
Awesome.
I was never the want to buy property type guy. I was always the, oh my God, tenants, toilets, and taxes type guy.
Yeah.
Then I started educating myself, listening to other podcasts, listening to other people, friends of mine who own other properties. And I'm a runner, so I was listening to Del Walmsley and he kind of convinced me to close out my IRAs and begin the process. And that's pretty much what got me started.
And you actually were going to cash out your IRAs, not do a rollover or a self-directed IRA for your purchase?
No, I was going to cash them out and go full bore. Right?
Okay. And then something happened and you didn't actually do that, right?
Correct. We were about to buy our first property and use my IRA money for part of the down payment. And my wife, who was my partner in our LLC, was at the bank. And our bank manager said, "Why would you use your own money? Have you thought about using a home equity line of credit?"
Mm-hmm.
And we had never thought about that. That didn't even make sense to us. So she sat my wife down. My wife came back and said, "Why don't we do this?" And as we ran the numbers, it made perfect sense. So we filled out the forms and we used the home equity line of credit for the down payment on our first property. And then we've used it ever since.
So your home equity line of credit was your 20 or 25% down payment, and then you finance the rest of it with a loan, an actual investor loan for the property?
Correct. Yeah, it was a 20% down, and then a regular commercial loan for the remainder.
So with a commercial loan, the banks care more about the deal than they do your personal credit or anything personal. Sometimes a commercial loan can be more tricky, but other times it's maybe a little bit easier if you have a good enough deal. Was it an easy process for you?
Yes, I did. It was much easier to do that. I showed a friend of mine, as I stated, is a real estate investor here locally. He gave me his broker's name. I called him up. I sent him over all the numbers. He called me back 20 minutes later and goes, "It's a great property. We'll write the loan. Give me a couple hours." And within a couple hours, we were ready to go.
Wow, that quick. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So tell me about that building. That's a 5-unit building?
It's a 5-unit building in Lockport, New York, which is about 15 minutes from here. Little quaint neighborhood, working class neighborhood. It was the individual who owned it before me, or before our company, lived there for quite a long time. And he was a HVAC guy, so everything in that house was perfectly done. And even after he moved out, he self-managed to the point where if it was a leaky faucet, he would go over there in the middle of the night just to change out a washer.
Incredible. Wow.
And, yeah, exactly. And it got to the point where he had a 2-year-old and he couldn't maintain it to that level anymore.
Okay.
So that's why he sold it. It had nothing to do with, he actually hated getting rid of it. And his brother lives in the building and still lives there today.
Okay. And the property was fully rented when you purchased it?
Fully rented, correct.
Wow. Okay. And did you get any information on the other tenants to see if they were paying their rent or how they were as tenants?
Yes, I did. He was like on a first name basis with all the tenants. It was a little difficult on this property to get like all the information on taxes and all the payments because this gentleman didn't treat it like a business as most people do. But once we were able to get all the information, he had it, but he just didn't know how he had it.
Right. Okay. And so you were totally in business. So you've got a 5-unit building. It's totally rented. Everything's in perfect shape. There's nothing to do. So it was a matter of closing on the property, and then you've got the rental income rolling in.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really great. Give me some numbers on that. So how much did the property cost, and then what are the units rented out for?
That property was $142.
Okay.
With 20 down.
Okay.
Or 20% down.
Okay.
We have a studio apartment that's upstairs that rents out for $450. A 2-bedroom that rents out for $550, and then 3 1-bedrooms that rent out for $500.
Okay. So you've got some really good cash flow there on that property. That's
really good cash flow. Yeah.
Yeah. And your maintenance expenses are probably nothing because the place was in such good shape when you bought it, right?
Minimal expenses, new roof, less than 5 years ago, I believe. HVACs units for each apartment, because that's what the previous owner did. I think the oldest water heater is less than 5 years old.
Okay. How did you find that deal?
That was an MLS deal.
Wow. So your market must just be an incredible cash flow market. Like, was that hard to find? Or was that, did you have to look in the MLS for weeks or months before you came across such a good deal?
I just happened along that deal. And we had been looking at other deals prior to this and made a couple of bids, but we got to the point where the owners were far too much in love with their properties and didn't want to get rid of them. Mm-hmm. And we kind of became frustrated. And a realtor sent us a text on this one. And it came across the MLS. And I went and saw it. I just happened to be in court that day around the corner from it, saw it. And she said, "Oh, you got to put a bid in on it." So we put in a bid. We were just about to leave for vacation. And it was a low bid, I thought. I figured he would come back. And he accepted our bid on a cruise ship about to leave port. Or actually, we had just left port. And she sends me a text saying, "The bid's accepted. I'm emailing you the contract."
That's the way to do business. That's great.
Right. I'm on a Disney fantasy going, "Oh, my God, what do I do?" So I had to buy the data package, and I'm downloading a contract, trying to sign it, and thinking to myself, wow, I guess this is what Donald Trump feels like, you know?
That's great. Okay. So then that building is performing. There's very little to do. Did that just give you the inspiration of, hey, I got to do this again?
That was a huge rush, and I couldn't wait. And my wife was a little scared at first because we're on this cruise ship. And I said, "Yeah, we just bought a property." And she said, "Oh my God."
That's great. So then when you got home, did you immediately start looking for your second property?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And how long did it take to find that?
We put in a couple of bids, and again, we had owners that were in love with their property, and the numbers just didn't make sense. And then we happened along one which turned out to be it's going to turn out to be a great deal. We bought a 5-unit property for cash for $48,000.
Wow,
And I know
a five unit for 48,000.
Yeah, and I can only imagine the people across the U.S. right now who are in L.A. and Dallas and Chicago are just thinking, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
that cannot be."
Yeah, I mean that just sounds like it can't be right. Is it in a really rough neighborhood?
It's actually not in a terrible neighborhood. It's actually a pretty decent neighborhood. It's one block from the main thoroughfare in Niagara Falls. Like one block from the city market where people during the summer, everybody walks to go get their food, all their produce and things like that. It was in kind of rough shape.
Okay.
In college, I may have lived there, but beyond that, probably not.
Okay.
But we got our contractor in there, and he spent a couple of months off and on putting in new floors, new bathrooms, new paint. And we had two of the tenants who immediately kind of moved out. The property management company did a horrible job of maintaining it. The individual who owned it lived in Hong Kong, so I don't think he put any money back into it.
Mm-hmm.
But now I've had people come and look at it, and one woman who actually her niece is going to move into it in about 3 days. Thought the building had been shut down.
Oh, wow.
Because she had a friend who had lived in it before we bought it.
Okay. And saw the shape it was in, saw that it was rough. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, was amazed that it was in the condition it was in now.
Yeah. So, but $32,000 and you've got a brand new building basically.
Correct. Yeah. Point. So we probably have into it about $75,000 total.
Okay. Okay. So $75,000 for a 5-unit. And tell me about the units. Like what kind of units are they and how much are they renting for?
There are 2 bedrooms and 3 1-bedrooms.
Okay.
The 3 1-bedrooms go for $495, and the 2 2-bedrooms go for $525.
Wow. Okay. That again is incredible cash flow. Now, with your buildings, you're having to pay the heat for your tenants. Upstate New York, it can get really cold. Are the heating bills killing you?
It's not that bad.
Okay.
It's about, I think we were paying for the last couple of winter months, but we've made some changes on some doors and some rules. We had a tenant who liked to leave her door open during the winter. Yeah, you
got to put a stop to that. That's not good.
Yeah. It was a couple of $100 a month for heat.
Okay. So
it wasn't terrible.
Yeah,
for
it's
5
not too
units.
bad. Yeah, it's not bad.
No.
Okay. And then shortly after that, you bought your next one, right?
Right.
Wow.
We just closed on it a little over a month ago.
Now, when you first started, did you think you were going to be this aggressive, or did it just kind of happen because of the early success that you've had with everything?
We knew we were going to be somewhat aggressive, but we did not think we would have 3 properties in a matter of 3 months.
Yeah. So it's literally been 3 months since you bought your first property.
Correct.
Wow. That is incredible. That is absolutely incredible. That 3 months ago, this was just kind of a dream or a thought. And now you've got 3 buildings.
Right.
Wow. That is really the way to do it. That is really awesome. Now tell me about the 3rd building.
The 3rd building is also in Niagara Falls. It's in a much nicer neighborhood. It's called DeVoe. It's it's about 1.5 miles from Niagara University, which is a nice neighborhood. It's a 7-unit building. We have 2 open right now that are being painted. A couple of new not floors, but we're replacing the carpets, putting down the vinyl flooring in those 2 bedrooms. We find that is much easier to live with than carpeting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And each one of those units, the 4 2-bedrooms, go for $650, and then we have 2 studios on the 1st floor that go for $400.
Okay. Now, you were telling me before the show when we were chatting that you bought that, I guess the person you bought it from was an out-of-town investor.
Yes.
Tell us that story about how his property management company was maybe taking advantage of him a little bit, and I guess it wasn't really working out for him.
Yeah, he purchased this property about 8 years ago. He bought it for, I think it was $195 8 years ago, and a nice building. We purchased it for $150 8 years later. His property management company was making $7,300 to $7,800 a year from the numbers he gave us. He was making anywhere from $3,300 to $3,500 a year on this property.
Wow.
And this property management company, I have found out through talking to a couple of friends of mine who own a large number of properties, and another friend of mine who's in this office with me, who I share space with, who's an attorney who represents a property management company. What they do is, with out-of-town investors, they will take a fee for basically putting somebody inside the building, a bonus basically. So they put a friend in for 2 months, that friend would move out. Put another friend in for 2 months, that friend would move out. So they were racking up the bonuses.
Right.
So they were making $7,000 a year, while this poor guy was making $3,000 a year.
God, that is horrible. That is really bad.
Yeah.
And I think that's the danger. You know, a lot of our listeners live in areas that don't cash flow as well, and they look at other areas to invest in. And I think that's one of the dangers being an out-of-town investor, is that you've really got to lean on your property manager to do a good job and not be taking advantage of you. And if you're not nearby, it's sometimes hard to keep tabs on that. So I think that's just a good cautionary tale for anyone that's looking to invest out of town. And the other property that you bought, the second property, you said that person was also an out of town investor too, right?
Right. He was from Hong Kong. We have for a number of years in Western New York, in the Buffalo, Niagara Falls, and even where my home is in Lewiston. We get a lot of out-of-town investors who like to buy things off the internet, sight unseen, and have no idea what they're buying. They'll see a picture, and it astonishes me because they'll see a picture on the internet from 6 years ago, and it'll be in the right-hand corner or someplace on the photograph that says when the picture was taken, and not thinking that this building has changed in that period of time. Right. And they'll still buy it.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean,
you got to be careful. Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah.
And all they see is the what they think they can make on it.
Right. Right. They yeah, exactly. They get seduced by the dollar signs because the numbers look so good and they don't know what they're buying. So be careful. If anyone's thinking about buying something out of town, definitely be careful. You don't want to be the guy selling the property that you bought for $195 to Joseph for $150. So
no, I'll be happy to buy
it.
At any point in time.
Well, that's great. So you've had a real busy 3 months. Do you see yourself continuing at the same pace?
If we can, yeah, we have. We're looking at actually 3 properties now that we have bids in on 2 that we're kind of arguing back and forth on price. And then a 3rd that we're considering buying. We have 17 doors now. We could triple that probably by the end of the summer if things go our way.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Well, definitely keep us updated. I'd like to
definitely
to check back in and see how you're doing here. So that's great. Well, congratulations on your portfolio.
Well, thank you very much.
And thank you for listening. My name is Dan Lane, and this has been the Rental Income Podcast.